bang, bang, bang. These guys will never be able to recover. But we got to start with muzzle velocities.
The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So to say that's an option we're actively looking at.
With critics decrying the mass as a move toward authoritarianism.
Peaceful protest over immigration turned frightening after a woman struck several demonstrators with her car.
Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
You guys are fucking Nazis!
They are demanding that the mayor of Newark be released right now.
These are animals, okay? And we have to stop it.
She rises, but Officer Guillermo Garcia and another officer hit her with batons. Then, Garcia's horse tramples with Mercury.
The cruelty is the point.
In a Facebook post on February 25th, 2024, Aaron Bushnell wrote, "Many of us like to ask ourselves, what would I do if I was alive during slavery? Or the Jim Crow South? Or apartheid? What would I do if my country was committing a genocide?" The answer is, you're doing it. Right now. Later that day, standing outside of the Israeli embassy, Aaron would immolate himself before expiring a few hours later. Now that it's been over 1 year since then, and Republicans have taken control of all three branches of government, we should also add, what would I do if my country is sliding into authoritarianism, to that list of questions. Every day, it seems like there are a dozen news stories about the awful things Republicans are doing. The two biggest ones when I began writing the script at the beginning of May were the arrest of Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, a Democrat mayor, for trying to assist during a necessary inspection of a new ICE detainment facility to ensure proper safety standards were being met. That same day during a press conference, Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller openly flaunted suspending habeas corpus, which basically means the government can black bag anyone they want, no courts involved. Funny how these two events happened so close to one another, isn't it? Regardless, I'm sure both of these things will be old news by now, even if I manage to get the video out the next day. And that's kind of the point, right? By constantly bombarding the airwaves with their own actions, policies, and statements multiple times a day, it becomes incredibly hard to keep track of everything that's going on, even if you're someone like me that actively tries to. It's literally been the Republican strategy for years. They openly admit to it. In a 2019 Frontline interview, Trump's chief strategist Steve Bannon said the following.
I said, all we have to do is flood the zone. Every day we hit them with three things. They'll bite on one and we'll get all of our stuff done. Bang, bang, bang. These guys will never be able to recover. But we got to start with muzzle velocity. So it's got to start, it's got to hammer, it's got to muzzle velocity.
While the main purpose of this tactic, at least from Bannon's point of view, is obfuscation to ensure they get the majority of their policies enacted, there's also a more insidious purpose at play. And that purpose is apathy. It's really demoralizing when you learn about a horrendous thing occurring, spend time learning about it and thinking of ways to protest or stop it, only to hear about something worse happening the next day, whether it's unrelated to the original thing or just an escalation of it. I'm going to give you a chain of events from Trump's first day in office to today, which, at the exact moment I wrote this part, would be May 15th, so you can understand what I'm talking about. On January 20th, Trump signed numerous executive orders, and at least 5 of which were related to immigration. The important bits of them are as follows. Attempting to revoke birthright citizenship. Suspending the intake of refugees under the argument that the United States lacks the resources for both migrants and citizens, which it's especially funny considering Elon Musk, the until recently billionaire Nazi darling of the administration, has enough wealth that 2% of it could end world hunger. Other executive orders ended the policy of catch and release, which basically means that instead of letting migrants claiming refugee status go while they await hearings on their immigration case, the Trump administration instead plans to place everyone, including women and children, into detention camps. Speaking of, Executive Order 14159 intends to build more detention camps, hire additional ICE personnel, and rescind several EOs made by the Biden administration regarding immigration. That was just day one. The next day, January 21st, the administration upped ICE's arrest quota to between 1,200 and 1,500 immigrants per day. This has led to the arrest of numerous innocent and legal American citizens, such as on January 24th, when ICE arrested a United States veteran for the crime of, having brown skin. Then, in March, the administration began targeting legal immigrant college students with arrest and deportation because they were protesting the genocide in Israel. The most well-known of these students is Muhammad Khalil, a green card holder whose arrest highlights yet another terrifying act by conservatives. When he was arrested, it was by plainclothed ICE agents, i.e. secret police, and without a warrant. Originally denied by the administration, their lawyers eventually admitted to it in court as the Trump administration had quietly authorized warrantless arrests under the Alien Enemies Act. While it was specifically made to target Venezuelans who were suspected Tren de Aragua members, something set up by the administration as an executive order in January classifying them as terrorists, it hasn't stopped them from using this justification on any immigrant they want. And that's exactly what they did, because that same month, the Trump admin started sending people to the CICOT prison in El Salvador, accusing them of being Tren de Aragua members. Because of the earlier EO, all TDA members are foreign enemies and thus fall under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, allowing the Trump admin to skip giving them due process and thus aren't required to provide evidence that the people they are deporting are actually TDA members and not, innocent people, which, as a study by the Cato Institute shows, at least 50 innocent people have been sent there. The most famous person sent to CICOT was Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a man they accused of being an MS-13 member, which is ironic because in 2019 he was granted protection by a US judge because he faced gang prosecution in El Salvador. But what is CICOT, you might be wondering? Well, according to the Human Rights Watch, CICOT is a prison that suffers from overpopulation, inhumane conditions such as 75 people stuck in a cell meant for 25, lack of access to consistent water, torture that includes beatings and drowning in barrels, and government officials in El Salvador have went on the record saying prisoners that go to CICOT will never be in their communities again. Oh, and we're paying El Salvador $6 million a year for the privilege. But hey, don't worry about US tax dollars being used for non-citizens. Trump has stated numerous times he wants to send American citizens there too.
If it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem. Now, we're studying the laws right now. Pam is studying. If we can do that, that's good. But I have suggested that, why should it stop just at people that cross the border illegally? We have some horrible criminals, American grown and born.
And boy oh boy have they gone after citizens. In April, 2 judges, Hannah Dugan and Joel Kano, were arrested with blatantly bullshit charges about helping immigrants evade arrest. Following their arrest, Tom Homan, the border czar of the Trump admin, made a victory lap tweet which bragged about the arrest with the implicit threat that any judge standing in their way would be next. And finally, at the end of April, Trump signed the Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect Innocent Citizens executive order. To sum it up, it's basically a pledge to increase funding and protection from repercussions for law enforcement, as well as how to utilize the military and the DHS to help police fight crime. Wonder how that's going.
I was photographing this, and then all of a sudden I felt this incredible, painful impact on my right thigh.
While there is no official count of protester injuries, the department told The Times it's received 59 complaints related to officer use of force during the protests.
Whew, that was quite a bit to cover. Basically, over the course of 4 months, what began as ending the catch and release policy as well as an attempt to end birthright citizenship escalated to no due process arrests and deportations of innocent and legal citizens and non-citizens alike to prisons in foreign countries where they are undoubtedly being tortured. Also, I am 100% certain I probably missed a couple important bits in that long list, so feel free to add anything relevant in the comments below. But it just goes to show that Bannon's strategy of a never-ending bombardment of policy has worked to an astounding degree. On screen now is a graph from Strength in Numbers going over the results of numerous polls comparing Americans' approval of Trump's immigration policies with the amount of reporting related to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. When the reporting was at its peak, Trump's approval was basically non-existent. But as the media started covering all the other things Republicans have been doing, Kilmar's plight slipped from the minds of the people, and although Trump's approval didn't fully recover, it still went up by 40%. I myself was not immune to this strategy. Instead of hitting the ground running after the results of the election last November, I fell prey to the maddening cacophony. I was always a few steps behind, and it felt like worse things were happening each day, and the more inaction I took, the more pathetic I felt, which only reinforced the hopeless cycle of idleness I had found myself in. So, what ended up snapping me out of it? Well, because of my mental state, I started to start reading books on all the awful things that have happened in modern history. Genocides, nuclear bombs, apartheid. Don't judge me, alright? Anyways, I was reading a book on the Rwandan genocide titled, "We Wish to Inform You That Tomorrow We Will Be Killed with Our Families" by journalist Phil Gorvich, when I came across a quote by a Rwandan survivor named Laurent Nukungali that jolted me awake from my apathetic fugue. "Rwandan culture is a culture of fear," Nukungali went on. "I remember what people said." He adopted a pipey voice, and his face took on a look of disgust. "Just let us pray, then kill us," or "I don't want to die in the street, I want to die at home." He then resumed his normal voice. "When you're that resigned and oppressed, you're already dead. It shows the genocide was prepared for too long." I detest this fear. These victims of genocide had been psychologically prepared to expect death just for being Tutsi. They were being killed for so long that they were already dead. Obviously, the Rwandan genocide is a much more complex topic than Hutus killing Tutsis, and I highly suggest you look into it. But for obvious reasons, the only thing I'll discuss today are the points immediately relevant to this video and the actions of the GOP. The Hutu government didn't start with genocide. They started by calling the Tutsis cockroaches.
Barbarically murdered by an illegal alien animal. Democrats say, please don't call them animals, they're humans. I said, no, they're not humans, they're animals. They have in every country, all over the world. This isn't just in South America. They're coming from the Congo, from Yemen, from Somalia, from Syria. They come from all over the world, China. They said, they're people. They're not people. These are animals. Well, in some cases, they're not people, in my opinion, but I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says that's a terrible thing to say. These are animals, okay? And we have to stop it.
Hutu citizens didn't wake up one day and decide to commit mass murder. They were led into it by state media like the Hutu Power Radio that was designed to poison their minds.
President Trump delivering on another one of his campaign promises, calling for tougher immigration laws. The president hosted a roundtable with police, congressmen, and local leaders on Long Island, New York, an area hit hard by the murderous MS-13 gang.
A few years before the genocide, where Tutsis could be targeted indiscriminately with extreme prejudice, the government had to make up allegations that all Tutsi and Hutu sympathizers were insurgents of the RPF and thus a danger to the country. Hell, even the Nazis couldn't go straight to the final solution. One of their earlier strats was to try and mass deport their Jewish population.
Stream of illegal alien rapists, MS-13 animals, and child predators will flood into your communities. If I win on day one, we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history.
Future Axolotl here. In breaking news, Californian Senator Alex Padilla was just physically assaulted and handcuffed by officers during Kristi Noem's press conference for, asking questions? Do I really need to say what this should remind you of? This isn't even everything either. I could list dozens more examples, but we'd be here all day if I did. TLDR, the important takeaway is this. We are well past the point of worry. The canaries in the metaphorical coal mine died years ago when there were zero repercussions to the Republican Party after their failed coup attempt on January 6, 2020. It's 2025, the mines are on fire, and no one seems to be able to put it out. In fact, we're probably already past the point of no return. And yet we have to try, because if we don't, we're willingly allowing ourselves to be abused, violated, and eradicated. This is normally the point in the video where I would ask you all to like and subscribe, but you know what? In the spirit of this video, I'm going to ask you all to go out and punch your local neo-Nazi.
They deserve the welfare. No, it's fine. Oh!
GI Robot has been waiting for a friend to kill Nazis with.
For legal reasons, this is a joke. So what do we do? Well, in the words of a pudgy Illinois governor,
never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
100% with you there, JB. We should be fighting like hell every single day against these monsters. But I'm not talking about lib shit like wearing pink shirts or writing a strongly worded letter. No. We need to engage in real protesting. The No Kings protest was nice and all, I even went to it. Where I was, we just held up signs, it did some chanting. However, I'm gonna be real with you. It didn't really do much. To all the liberals currently watching this, forgive me if my speech is unclear or absurd. But throughout history, most civil rights issues haven't been settled by people holding up a sign and chanting shame. One need only look to most of colonial Africa, a lot of African countries post-colonization, the American Revolution, the American Civil War, the end of the Nazi regime in Germany, Ireland breaking from the yoke of the English boot, etc., etc. Those in power do not give rights without a reason to do so. If Republicans are so keen on undoing democracy and the administrated state, the typical response of the people to vote in the ballot box will no longer be on the table. Hoping this won't happen, and I do not condone violence, but I am also aware of history and historical trends. So what can we do before things get to that point? Well, what's happening currently in LA and California is a good starting point and shows that organized action works. There have been numerous times where neighborhoods have forced ICE to evacuate in a panic because, as is always the case, fascists are cowards. LA protesters have also been protesting outside hotels where ICE agents are staying at in order to ensure they can't sleep. But we can and have to do more. Which is why I'm working on 2 protesting videos. One will be about how to protest safely and efficiently. The next will be discussing all of the different kinds of protest you can engage in, from things like sit-ins, non-violent occupation, and how to wheat paste, to things that are illegal that I will tell you about so you know what not to do, such as sabotage and roadblocks. Remember folks, we only lose if we stay silent. Don't go quietly into that dark night.
In dark times, should the stars also go out? Anyway, good night to you.
Wow, I didn't think this was going to be a fully fleshed out video. I was just expecting to do a 1 to 2 page script, but here we are at 5 pages. I really want to thank everyone watching, especially those who subscribe and comment on my videos. It truly means a lot to me. If you want to support this channel even more, I do have a Patreon because, let's be real, even if my videos weren't limited or fully demonetized by YouTube, the payout from them is a pittance at best. Speaking of patrons, I want to give a special thanks to my star students, Pip the Badger, Eric Torgler, and Foxboy. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see all you gals, gents, and peeps in the next vid.
Go, dudes.
You are a lazy baby. She's like, no, I'd have to move my head to eat it. I don't want to do that.